So I would like to welcome, first of all, our parish president, Larry Richard, to come and say a few words.
Gotta get all this together, guys. But I have some glasses on. But I got some real glasses on. Okay. First, I want to thank God for blessing us with the opportunity to gather here this evening. Today marks a special occasion as we come together to honor a true living legend, Dr. Phebe Hayes. Dr. Hayes is not only this year's esteemed recipient of the 2023 James Williams Rivers Prize, but also a pillar of our community, whose contributions are both profound and inspiring. Dr. Hayes has worn many hats throughout her career, from a speech pathologist to an academic administrator and a professor. Her passion, however, does not end there. She is the founder of the Iberian African American Historical Society and served with distinction as a dean at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette from 1986 until 2013. While I'm not going to attempt to list all of Dr. Hayes' achievements tonight, because we seriously will be here for quite some time, I must highlight her role as the American Independent historian dedicated to enriching our true understanding of history. Her work illuminates paths not only through our past, but toward a more inclusive and understanding future. As the Iberian Parish President, I take pride in acknowledging that the first time I met Dr. Hayes many years ago in professional capacity, from that very first meeting, it was clear to me that Dr. Hayes is a person of extraordinary intellect and remarkable capacities and capabilities. If there's knowledge to uncover, Dr. Hayes will surely find it for you. She is a very parish strong, born and raised. In this parish is where she spent most of her days. Reading, writing, and making her way is how she became the person she is today. Her journey from a small town to become a giant in her field is not just inspiring, it's a testament to the power of dedication and intellect. Dr. Hayes, I speak for everyone here when I say our community, our parish, and indeed our world is a better place because of your contribution. Thank you, Dr. Hayes, for your service, your commitment to education. We are honored to have and celebrate with you tonight. Dr. Hayes, which I don't even see her. There you go. I've been looking. I was looking on the side of your husband for you. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Hayes, for everything you did.
Now I'd like to introduce Mayor Freddie DeCourt.
Good evening. What a good crowd. What a great event. Dr. Hayes, after all of her great work at UL, retired, and then probably has worked harder since she's been retired. She came to visit me in my office for a 15-minute visit, and she left 2 hours late. And the knowledge and the love that she has for our community as a whole, for our history, our total history. You know, diversity is economic development. And when she left, that was like the little grain that, she didn't say it like that, but the way I looked at it was to tell our whole story, all the stories, those that were forgotten, those that were left out, those that need to be told. If a community doesn't know its past, it's not going to know its future. You can't head and be what we should be as a whole if all the stories aren't told. that thread that fabric that it weaves just makes us all the better. Just makes us the beautiful community that we are. So when she left after maybe the second 2-hour visit, I was like, that's it. Diversity is economic development. It's tourism, it's our history, it's our culture. So she has done nothing but great work. And I'm so proud of her and of our community as a whole. And I think this is just the beginning, because the seeds that are being sown now are going to bear fruits for a long time. All of these stories, when all our kids know our history, when we find how great we are as a community, when we look, all the things that bind us, our food, our language, our culture, our history, all of those things are what she's working on. So I just can't thank you enough for what you've done, what you are doing, and what you will do for our community. It's a good night, and certainly you deserve this and every other honor you rack up. Thank you.
And now I'd like to welcome Miranda Restovic with the Louisiana Endowment for the Humanities. She's going to say a few words.
Good evening, and thank you all so much for letting me be an interloper. I drove in from New Orleans. Don't hold it against me, please. I spent quite a bit of time here. As Marcia said, my name is Miranda Restovic. I'm the Executive Director of the Louisiana Endowment for the Humanities, the Louisiana affiliate to the National Endowment for the Humanities. And the reason I'm here is because I know that Dr. Hayes is a celebrity here in this community, but I'm here to tell you that Dr. Hayes has been a celebrity in the national humanities world, and certainly at the LEH, for as long as I've been there, which is 18 years. It is people like Dr. Hayes. It is truly people like Dr. Hayes that make public humanities an important way that we engage our generations and our future generations in understanding this complex and complicated place we call home, and so that we can imagine a better and more inclusive future together. I am honored because I was nervous and tickled when Dr. Hayes was nominated to join the Louisiana Endowment for the Humanities board, and of course I mentioned that she has been a celebrity, and I was very nervous to call her and ask her to serve in that capacity. And she exhibits and exudes humanity and humility. And it also felt like, I don't know, like we had been friends for forever, and she told me, please don't call me Dr. Hayes. It's just Phebe. And I still can't do it. So on behalf of the Board of Trustees of the Louisiana Endowment for the Humanities, I want to congratulate you, Dr. Hayes, for your lifetime of work and achievement and contributions to public humanities. We so appreciate you and what you have brought to light and what you continue to do on behalf of the state of Louisiana to put us on the map. I did bring a little certificate, which I will unwrap for you. I know you have a much more important certificate to receive today, but this is really from the Louisiana Endowment for the Humanities and our deepest appreciation for your contributions. Congratulations.
Okay, and now I'd like to introduce Dr. Josh Caffrey with the Center for Louisiana Studies at UL.
Thank you, Marcia. Howdy, everybody. Put on my readers here. I could see perfectly until about sometime in the middle of the pandemic, and now I can barely see at all. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's really my honor to be here to present this award on behalf of the Center to Phebe, to Dr. Hayes, Dr. Phebe. Let me begin by briefly explaining the award, giving a little bit of history, because it really is a notable honor as it's gone on, as we've given a number of these over the years. And so I just want to kind of give you a little bit of information about it and why I think it's an incredible fit for Phebe. And I'm just going to read the formal language of the award because that's what we do every year when we give it. For just a bit, for a paragraph. The James William Rivers Prize in Louisiana Studies is among the most prestigious awards in this field. It was established to honor persons or organizations who have contributed or rendered recently or over the course of their careers outstanding scholarly study, work, or teaching about the culture, history, art, architecture, crafts, flora, fauna, music, literature, law, performing arts, or geography of Louisiana, or about its people. The prize was established in honor of Mr. Rivers, who was a prominent New Orleans architect, and he was a graduate of USL, now UL Lafayette. He died in the early 90s, and the award's been going on since then. Just a few of the people who the award has gone to. It's a long list, but just so you know the magnitude and the caliber of the people who this award goes to every year. A. Hayes Town was the first recipient. Ernest Gaines, Darrell Bork, the Poet Laureate Emeritus, Zachary Richard, the singer, Leah Chase, the cultural icon and chef, Ellis Marsalis, the jazz musician, people from across kind of the spectrum of Louisiana public humanities and culture and art and scholarship. From what I can tell, in addition to these names, Phebe will be in good company with at least two other eminent New Iberians, Glenn Conrad, who is the founding director of the center, and of course, James Lee Burke received the award a while back. And I should add that she'll be in good company, but they'll be in great company with her. Another note, looking over this list, it tends to be a lifetime achievement award for people who've, devoted their life to one thing. And one thing, and the mayor touched on this briefly, is that this major award is going to Phebe only for what she's done in retirement, It's kind of amazing, I don't know how she's done it. So the purpose of this award is very close to the purpose of our Center for Louisiana Studies at UL Lafayette, which is to be a public-facing arm of the university's Louisiana-based humanities efforts. We want to make sure that the university is communicating with the public and that the university hears the public and listens to the public also, that there's a conversation going on that enriches all of us. I really think Phoebe's work has just been a beautiful realization of this, and so did the committee that decided on this award. She has taught and inspired so many people in this community and around the state and around the nation, as Miranda said, using the tools of a scholar. So archives, publications, journals, lectures, research centers, things like that. But she's also taught us, and by us I mean scholars and academics and researchers, she's taught us how to make meaningful connections outside the academy, how to approach difficult topics with kindness and understanding, how to approach our work with wisdom and humility, and how to build bridges with patience and steady diligence. It's a divisive time, especially in some of the difficult topics that Phebe has addressed, But I think if you look around and think about this night, she is someone who brings people together from all walks of life, and she's been an inspiration to me personally, and I know to a lot of us in the university. So I just want to say personally and on behalf of the center, Phebe, thank you for the example you've set for all of us, both inside, outside the academy, from the Bayou to the red brick towers of UL Lafayette. At this point, let me turn it over to another one of our eminent guests, Mr. John Warner Smith. He is, among other things, he's the executive director of the Shadows on the Tech. He is an emeritus poet laureate of the state of Louisiana, and he's an author of many books, some of which are with the Center for Louisiana Studies, I'm proud to say, and much more. So please welcome John Warner Smith.
Thank you, John. Good evening, y'all. Like Larry did. Phoebe asked if I'd read a poem. And this is a poem she wanted me to read. You see how long that is? It's a special poem for me and for Phebe and the organization. I know that not long after I was appointed Poet Laureate, I got a call from Phebe asking if I'd come to Liberia and if I composed an original poem, Come from Liberia, and recite it, commemorating the 75th anniversary of the 1944 expulsion of black leaders. So it was a highlight of all that was to follow in my Port Laureate experience. But I'm not going to read that poem. I beg your forgiveness, Mother. There are copies, by the way, y'all, of this pamphlet of the poem, thanks to an anonymous donor. Each of you is welcome to take one on the way out the door. So I thought I'd give some words to the occasion that I think are more appropriate than the Sermon of the Dreamers, and it's short, so y'all gonna be pleased about that. It's a sonnet. The title is This Light, for Phebe Hayes. I buried a child, torch bearer, northern star, morning glow. Shine on, dear sister. Make dawn's blaze for all eyes to see, the dungeon and the door, the ocean, the bitter fields, and the mountaintop. Bring light for the good seed planted, and for thistles and thorns bearing fruit. Shine on, Mother. Shine for the innocent ones enslaved, denied, and persecuted. Bring light for the warriors unseen, whose stories, like tolling bells, resound in history untold, ignored, and forgotten. Shine for truth, hope, and every loving and beautiful spirit God made for us. Thank you.
And our next speaker is Dr. Marissa, I'm going to say this wrong, Marissa, I'm sorry, Petro?
You got it.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. It's a great honor and privilege to be with you all this evening to celebrate the amazing contributions that Dr. Phebe Hayes has made to how we do research in Louisiana history and what stories we tell. And it's important for me to refer to Phoebe as Dr. Hayes in part because her role as a mentor for me as a woman historian in a department where we have only one tenured woman professor. Actually, we have no tenured women professors at the moment. So Phoebe, for the last 6 years, has been this important woman mentor for me and a mentor as a public historian. So I'll continue to call her Dr. Hayes for the next few minutes. Yeah, it's an honor to celebrate the contributions Dr. Hayes has made to how we do research in Louisiana history, and in what stories we tell. Dr. Hayes' work reminds us that Black history is Louisiana history, that anti-Blackness is also part of Louisiana history. Her call for a true and inclusive history demands that academic historians and community members learn about and talk with each other about the struggles and the successes of Louisiana's African American communities. Dr. Hayes has identified numerous sites in which this reparative research and educational work should take place, from existing city, state, and nationally funded historic sites and museums, to the university classroom, to the public library, to the city sidewalk, and to the cemetery. When Dr. Hayes and I first met, she was working on the history of African American medical professionals in New Iberia, and I was working on the history of medicine in Louisiana. Phebe was not just interested in uncovering these histories and establishing historical markers to celebrate such groundbreaking achievements as African-American woman doctor, Dr. Emma Wakefield Hayes' achievement of earning a medical degree in late 19th century Louisiana. Dr. Hayes was also dedicated to education and mentorship and to changing the way we do public history at the University of Louisiana Lafayette and in Louisiana, so that students can learn about shared authority and ethically responsible research through community engagement. And several students who have benefited from this are here tonight as well. Dr. Hayes contributed her knowledge to numerous history courses, but even more substantially, she provided countless opportunities for our students to expand their training in working with the community, in working outside of the university, in creating community-led archives to do this work that institutions have failed to be doing for decades and decades. She's taught them about how to negotiate different political sensitivities of different stakeholders, of when a door closes in one place, open a window somewhere else. If one group isn't working, that doesn't mean you give up on your mission. So Dr. Hayes, as I mentioned, has been a mentor and a model for me in her bravery, her ongoing bravery and dedication to her mission of truth-telling. She's provided our students with a model of what a Black woman in leadership looks like. Her work is urgent, it is necessary, it is life-saving. Thank you, Phebe, for showing us what's possible.
And our next speaker is Dr. Shaylin Woods from the Ernest Gaines Center.
Let me just say, from a selfish point, I'm glad I'm the last one to go under the testimonies and tributes, because on the way here, I was trying to think about what exactly am I going to say. And so I'm going to give a disclaimer. I'm going to start this off with something you don't like me saying, but I need you to bear with me and allow me to honor you this way. So, I was trying to remember how I met Miss Phebe. And the fact of the matter is, I cannot remember how I met Miss Phebe. I don't know if her niece Karen introduced me to her, or if I saw her on campus, or she was just a force on campus. And I don't think I realized when I met her that she was retired, because she felt like she was so ingrained in that campus, that she was a part of UL, in a way that was so important to me as a young Black woman working at a PWI in a space where I never thought I was going to be, because that was not my intention, was to be in the university. So to have that example and to hear her name so much and everybody just respect her, felt like she was always there. To find out that she was retired, it was still always there. I took notes because there's so much to say, and I'm trying really hard not to tear up. I'm not going to do it. What I do remember about first meeting Miss Phebe is, first she told me don't call her Miss Phebe. And her willingness to help me, without knowing a thing about me, navigate this new landscape. Not just literally a new landscape, but a whole new profession that was not something I had ever thought about doing, and I was kind of thrusted into it because I like archives, and I got to work in a space where I got to focus on Black history. And I remember her telling me about her experience at UL and being the Dean of College of General Studies, College of General Studies, yes. And all those things, and I remember looking at her and saying, but you're a historian too, right? She said, no. I said, no, but you are. You're a public historian. She said, no, I'm not a public historian. I said, okay. And then we started talking about history. And she asked me my family name. And she goes, we're probably related. You're my cousin. I said, oh, okay. Fun fact, she knew my mother's genealogy out of New Iberia without even knowing me or my mother. Because that's the kind of researcher she is.
Right.
She knows, and she knows so deeply because she cares so deeply. And she never let me go. As I continued and as I progressed on campus, she became my mentor, and she brought me places and brought me to people that helped me understand the landscape so much better. And I got to watch her grow into a public historian, which I feel like she would still say she is not. I got to listen and learn in a way that I don't think many people grasp. Watching someone identify their life mission and figure out with a level of dogged determination that they're gonna do this, regardless of what anybody says, is beautiful and inspirational. And that's what Miss Phebe showed me. So in my moments when I was sad, in my moments when things were hard and I felt underappreciated or sometimes even abused, I remembered I could call Phebe. And Phebe would have a story and she would tell me to stick with it, or she would say, if you can't, that's okay, you deserve better. They need you, but you don't need them. And that's something that's very powerful when you think about that. And then we started, I don't remember, again, things are so fluid. I don't remember how it happened. We talked about the Iberian African American Historical Society. And she called me and said she was going to start the Iberian African American Historical Society because there was a gap in the library. There was a gap in the library. That was why. There was a gap in the library. And she knew she shouldn't do it by herself. So she was getting a bunch of us together to help her do it by herself. Yeah. And she did. She recognized and she told me so many amazing things. And I'm trying to remember all the great things I've learned about Iberia from Miss Phebe. About Booker T. Washington coming here. About the black doctors being here. About the slave camps, what are they called? Contraband camps, thank you. The contraband camps, and these are things that she knew and could trace back so deeply and was like, everybody needs to know this, and had to just in her head. Like, I don't know if Library of Congress has called you, but they should. Because, they need catalog and stuff. Like, you need to be indexing. Libraries would need that. And I'm saying that jokingly, but seriously. The amount of attention to detail that you share, not just for your family, but for the broader picture of New Iberia, is awe-inspiring. The way you reach out to community, members in your community, after members in your community, just trying to help them find a way to make sure this history is not lost, is awe-inspiring. And on behalf of the Gaines Center, I thank you. I thank you for including the center in your work. I thank you for supporting the center the way you do. I thank you for including me and bringing me into this community. It has been an honor and a joy to work with you. I do not have the words to express my appreciation and love for you. This is also why I want to go last, because I don't have to do all super professional things. I can speak from the heart. And every opportunity I will get to give you your flowers, I'm going to do that. I will be there for you as you've always been there for me. I feel like you have embraced me as family, and as someone not from this area at all, this region at all, that means so much to me. You deserve this, and so much more. And I'm glad we're here to honor you tonight, Dr. Phebe Hayes.
Here again is Dr. Josh Catherine.
Well, I guess there's nothing left to do but to bring the lady of the hour up and give her an award. It is my distinct honor to present the 2023-24 James William Rivers Prize in Louisiana Studies to Dr. Phebe Hayes, and she's going to say a few words.
Oh, I love y'all. And I know I'm going to flub up. My little brain is not working. It's going in overdrive. I have to thank my colleagues on this stage. And there's Marsha. I just have to thank everyone, because this is nothing that I ever dreamed of. And I was going to start by talking about my organization and the work that everyone has been doing, and I'm going to get there. But it's so important to me that I try to thank each of you, especially those of you who were with us from the very beginning. When we actually had a steering committee made up of my family, my husband, my niece, Karen, my daughter, everybody's names went on it so that I could get it chartered through the state. And then as soon as we got chartered, then I could kick them all off. And we got a board. At the time, it was an 18-member board, which I quickly learned is kind of difficult. So everyone self-selected whether or not they wanted to stay on the active board or on the advisory board. And I'm just going to ask those of you who are able to come, who are on the active board, our current board members, and those who are members of our advisory board that could come, if you would just stand, because I want to have this opportunity to thank you all publicly. There is no way that any of this work could be done. I mean, Dr. Hayes retired. So it's Phebe Hayes. I grew up in this community. This is home, and no one can question my love for this community. My people have been here for generations, and at least 3 centuries, I should say. And so we own this place. We own this place. My people's bones are below the soil of this place. They're on several old plantations. And again, when I talk about 19th century history, American history, there is no anger. There is no guilt trip that I'm trying to force on people, because I had slaveholders in my family. And whether you understand it or not, those of us who have been here for generations, we all have a little something in us. And the difference is I'm able to trace who my people are, especially my wonderful husband, a man from Avery Island, Petitons. So, his name is Harold Hayes, so you guess it. But this is all of our communities. We're all cousins. We're all related. So I'm not trying to hurt anyone. But what hurts is when we half teach history to children, just like we have. It is not right to have history books that only tell a portion of the history and leave out whole groups of people. First starting with the indigenous people who suffered the most, followed by the Africans who were actually here before the Acadians and the Spaniards. They were here. They came with a European who I understand left for a few years, 8 years, went back to Europe, and when he came back they had established this vashery. It was booming. They were intermarried in the Chitimacha tribe, many of them, but Andre Mas brought them here. And that's like in the early 1700s, and it may have been like 20 years before the Acadians arrived. I'm sorry, the Spaniards arrived. So they had been here, and you can imagine what they did, what their role was to teach these newcomers how to survive in this land, along with the indigenous people. So my point is, you can't have a history of a community and you only tell part of the community story.
Right.
Everyone has contributed.
Yeah.
And my ancestors growing up in New Iberia, I learned a whole lot from those grandmothers.
Right.
I'm not really a genealogist, but I love learning about it. I remember those grandmothers and grandparents talking about the stories that they grew up with. They're old people who only spoke French. They're old people who were Civil War veterans, how they bought land in these little rural communities and formed, a lot of times, these little historically black communities. Nico Town, Freetown.
Right.
Olivia is considered to be a black community. But they all were formed around a lot of these old plantations because they had to get to the fields where they were working
Right.
easily because there were no cars.
Right.
And I'm going off track as I started out by to talk about thanking my people, and that's my New Iberia people. But if you get me started talking about stories of this community, I tell you. So I talked about my wonderful board and the people who are still there with us. Marcia Patu, the Bayou Teche Museum, I was a member of the board. Where is Marcia? Okay. We did not have a 501c3, but the Bayou Teche Museum, through Marcia Patu, was so wonderful, graceful. They allowed us to use their 501c3 so that we could get started, and we could start accepting donations. Where did those donations come from? People like you. And I even had an old classmate who was living, I think, in Alabama someplace, and she sent money, cash, in an envelope, because she didn't have a checking account. But she just wanted, and to me, that was, I don't know if you can understand what I'm saying. Those little donations, as far as I was concerned, is like in the Bible, the woman who only was able to give pennies or whatever. That meant a lot to me because it told me that this has to be a grassroots campaign endeavor, where the community, $5 here, $10 here, and I'm not turning down the $1,000 and $25, but I want to make sure everyone knows that I'm aware that it's the community that has contributed to the ongoing success of this organization. You give us, because you embrace us, you give us credibility for the work that we're trying to do. And we have so much more work to do. I'm going to ask if Deanna and Terry are here, her husband? Yes. Well, my friends came from Baton Rouge, and they have visited us at the Shadows, and I do want to talk about the Shadows, John, and the National Trust for the Preservation of History. Thank you. But they are affiliated with the Family Search. Family search sites where you can do all this. Well, they are representatives of it. They have a family history center in Baton Rouge, right? That is part of the LDS Church. Correct me if I say anything wrong. Okay. And we have been talking about future endeavors, and we're going to get there. We just have to wait. But one of the things that we want to do is to establish affiliate center at the Shadows, at our Center for the Study of Research and Learning. And so we're hoping to have it at some point soon, or whenever the Family Search organization is ready, where people can come in and just pull up those old death certificates and all those records that we find so important when we're doing our own research. And along the way, maybe they'll come in and look at some of the records that Taylor Sweer and, where's Taylor? Preceded by Jordan Richardson have done as archivists, as administrators, and under the leadership of John Warner Smith of the Shadows, as well as because they were supported, their positions were supported or are supported by the National Trust. So we can't make it all by ourselves. I would try to go and man that Historical Society Center, the research center, if I had to, because it's a commitment to this community. But we have wonderful people who are bringing their expertise and their time and their donations even to our center. And I'm so afraid I'm going to forget people as I continue. I spoke to, I'm always talking about the research. And one day, Anne, Judge Simon, she and I were talking, and Margaret, by the way, Margaret and I have a book that's coming out this fall, we think. It's this fall, right? It's about Dr. Emma Wakefield Paye. It's her biography infused with the wonderful poetry that Margaret did to enrich it. But Anne wrote a book lately based on the record of one of my great-great-great-grandfathers, Jean-Louis, who was a member of the Corps d'Afrique, or a veteran of the Civil War, right, on the Union side. And it's a very interesting story. And she took elements from that book and she weaved it into a historical fiction account of the lives of these men and women during that time when the war came to this area. So that's what I'm hoping we can inspire, is people to become curious about the history, about how we all got here, what the relationships were. And somewhere along the line, there's going to be humanity that is going to be recognized when it comes to the people who were least respected. And that's the people that I'm descended from, you know, most recently. So it's just important. This is how you bring a community together. When people come to understand where they all come from, the historical threads that you can follow to get an understanding of why some communities, some neighborhoods are impoverished, they're crime-ridden, and then you come to understand this was all part of an intentional plan to impoverish certain communities. Because how else can you explain why some communities have so much and some communities have so little? Those communities flood. Those communities, they are part of the poorest land, and they were legally not allowed to live in the better parts of town. And that legality was supported by the local, state, and federal laws. And it's important for you to understand, it's not laziness, because I don't come from lazy people, but I come from people who were human beings and made the best that they could out of the laws that they had to live under. And if we all understand that, then we come to understand that we need to start recognizing that we're all Liberians. I sometimes wonder what our community would be like if none of this horrible stuff happened in the 19th and then 20th century, because it went until the 1960s when I was getting ready to, until I was entering high school. What would this community be like if there were no Jim Crow segregation laws, no places that my parents could not be allowed to settle in, to buy lands that they would not be able to bring their families to? What would it be like? I don't think we would have the crime. I think, and my point is that those leaders of the past, they instilled or they implemented laws and policies that we are all bearing the brunt of. But we're all suffering from that, instead of us being able to be one as a community. And that's all I want. I don't push things down people's throats. What I love most is being in a coffee shop and someone saying, "Phebe, what are you working on?" And it's like, good. And we have the most wonderful debates. I don't try to beat people over and make them feel bad. Actually, if I feel that they're beginning to feel like there's some guilt that I make sure I divest them of that, because that's not what this is about. Right. But anyway, I kind of digressed. You have to stop me. But I mean it. There are people who have been major donors for us, and I'm just going to mention a few, and I know they don't want me to do that, but Doc Voorhees has been very, very supportive, faithful in his support of what we're doing. David Levy has been very, very supportive. And I have to mention that the UL Center for Public History, the Gilbo Center, which is one of our partners, they didn't just come and teach classes for us, which they did. They helped to finance some of the work that had to be done and the furnishing that had to be made for the Iberia African American Historical Society Center for Research and Learning, second floor of the Shadows. My point is, we could not do this by ourselves. None of us could. And the only reason that we can survive is because you all continue to support our work, our efforts. And one of the things that we are most, that's why I kept the same board, we are most focused on is making sure that our mission, we never waver, and that we never betray your trust. If you give us money to bring in this, that's what we do with it. We don't use our money for social or whatever gatherings. And I need to make sure everyone understands that we are all very committed to protecting the trust that the public has in us. I was starting to name some of the donors. Raymond Wilson's Janitorial Center, he met me at Anointed Soul Food and told me to come pick up a check. And then he did it again. So, you know, people like our work, and we have good friends. People even, one lady even sent us a Clementine Hunter painting, thanks to her love of Anne Simon. And I love Clementine Hunter. I just didn't know it was so valuable. So, and I thought about one time that maybe we can sell it and raise money, and one of my wonderful colleagues on the board, where's Susan, said, and she influenced all the rest of the board members, no, we're not selling that painting. We may sell hamburgers and whatever, but we're not selling the painting. But anyway, I just wanted to tell you all thank you, and I know I'm forgetting so many people. New Pie with State Farm, Anointed Soul Food. These are people, you know, who have been able to give more, a little bit more. And again, I appreciate every dollar that people have contributed and every word of encouragement that people have contributed. And all I can say is God bless y'all. I didn't have to say anything about too much about the organization because these wonderful people did it already.
That's going to conclude this evening. We have food though, and we have drinks. So please congratulate Phoebe yourself, and I think Marsha's going to say something. Okay, yeah, make yourselves at home. We have some music and food, and thank you for being here to honor people.
Excuse me, sorry.